Hey, BassGeek here, and winter, the bass slow down. So you want something that's gonna stay in their face and drive them mad. Let me show you what I use. That's right, geeks, when it gets cold, the bass set still. And I'm telling you, this is a rig that I've never been really super fond of. As time goes on, it has become more and more prevalent. And a lot of that is because of some of the ways I'm using technology to catch these bass. But this is something that you guys from the bank in ponds, no matter where you're at, need to be using. And I've came up with a few little tweaks, and I've got an awesome little bait that I love to use this time of year because it's so subtle. I've also got something for you geeks. Let's go look at it. All right, geeks, this is the December BassGeek box, and it is being brought to you by JBros this time. And let me tell you, they have straight up loaded you with a box. I mean, just this entire box of soft plastics. I think they sent one of every color they make in some really great baits for December and really for all winter long. So we're gonna go through. Now listen, they make the packs. I'm gonna show you this. They make the packs that I have to rip to get into. Now this is something that if I'm giving away, I'm not going to rip these open. We're going to show you the best way we can. There'll be links in the description for all these baits. You can go and you can get a little better look on their website. You know, you guys tell me in the links if it matters, like if you'd rather be able to see the baits up close a little bit better, or if just showing them in the pack. So we're going to do it, but you know, a lot of times in the packs you're going to get some glare. You know, I want to highlight these baits. You guys tell me. So let's go through this enormous bag of gear that you're going to get. And we're going to start out with the double trouble, which you guys know I love to throw. I love to tight line, the Mickey rig, whatever you want to call it. But these are the double troubles, and they've sent them in a ton of different colors. This, of course, is Alabama crawl. This is Baby D Bass. I'll tell you what, that's a pretty killer color right there. Another great color, motor oil. Pumpkin seed, black and blue flake, cracked pepper, green pumpkin, black, red bug. Now this is a very unique worm. This is the smaller size. I know you guys seen me talk about the BFW, big freaking worm. Well, this is the Trinity worm. It's a little bit smaller, and what's great about it is you can use it in a lot of different ways. You can cut it down, you can use it as a grub or a trailer, you can use it as a ribbon tail worm. It's so versatile. It's such an incredible worm, and this is a 6-inch version, and this is watermelon red, black and blue flake, green pumpkin purple, pumpkin seed, red bug, motor oil, white, green pumpkin, Alabama crawl. So this next bait can be fished so many different ways, from, you know, just weightless to a shaky head this time of year to a drop shot. It's called the skinny stick. Now it looks a whole lot like their ballpoint, which I'm a big fan of. It's got a great tail action, and you know, we're going to be talking about the drop shot in today's video, but it's not this bait. I'm going to show you one of my favorite wintertime baits from them to use on a drop shot. But check this out. This is called the skinny stick, and this is watermelon red, black and blue, motor oil, red bug, Baby D Bass, pumpkin seed, white, black, and as always, green pumpkin. Next up, I believe they sent you a ballpoint in every single color they have. This is a great Ned bait. It's a great drop shot bait. It's a great bait for the Demiki rig. It's a good bait as a trailer on certain baits. It's just a good diverse bait. And that's what I like about JBros. They really do make baits that each one can be fished a lot of different ways. And first up is we've got the ballpoint in Alabama crawl, red bug, pumpkin seed, motor oil, black and blue flake, cracked pepper, black, white, green pumpkin. Okay, so these are my favorite things from JBros to drop shot. I love them. I love the action. If I'm drop shotting for largemouth, I like to use their 5-inch, and this is the glider. If I'm drop shotting for smallmouth, I'm using the 3-inch. It's a great all-around bait. A lot of times, even for largemouth, this is a great all-around bait when it gets really tough to get bites. I'll show you how to rig them in a minute, but I'm gonna show you what all they sent you guys. Let's start with the 5-inch. Again, this is the glider, 5.5 inches actually, and it is in green pumpkin, black pumpkin seed, white morning dawn, red bug, Alabama crawl, motor oil, June bug, cracked pepper, black and blue, watermelon red. Now I'm going to show you geeks what they sent you in the 3-inch version and probably what we're going to be using today. And this is Alabama crawl, black, watermelon red, green pumpkin, black and blue, motor oil, June bug, white, cracked pepper. All right, geeks, so I'm going to show you how to rig this up. I'm going to use the Morning Dawn color in the 3-inch. Now, I like 3-inch when I'm around like spotted bass and smallmouth. Most of the time, if I'm fishing for largemouth, I'm going to use that 5. Now, I use 2 or 3 different types of hooks depending on the type of cover structure that I'm around. If you guys have a lot of trouble with line twist, a cool little hook is the Spin Shot. This is a wide gap. I like the number 1, the 1/0, the 2/0, depending on what type of bait I'm using. It's a fine wire hook, so you don't have to worry about it, being hard to set the hook. The only thing I don't like, you got to tie a knot at the top and a knot at the bottom. Not that the knot's an issue, it's just a little more work instead of just tying one knot and going on with it. But this really does help keep line twist down. A lot of times if I'm not around a lot of stuff and I can fish an exposed hook, this is what I'm going to go with. I'm going to nose hook it, especially if I want a little extra action. And a lot of times when I'm around those smallmouth or spotted bass, that little extra flutter action that this is going to give you, it's going to get you a few more bites. Now, this is a number 1 offset worm hook. And the reason why I like this little hook is because I can rig it weedless, and it really does help me use this bait around a lot of cover. When you rig this little 3-inch bait on here, it really cuts down on the action. In the cold water, you want it as subtle and the least amount of action you can get most of the time. All right, geeks, very first thing we're going to talk about is leader length. But as a rule of thumb, the colder it gets, the shorter the leader you want. And the reason why you want a shorter leader is because it's going to create less action. Now, of course, when it comes to a drop shot, we tie the Palomar knot. So I come through, back through, we pass the hook through, and then we just snug it down. And then the key to this knot on a drop shot is we place it through one more time and we just give it a little tug. That knot ends up on the bottom. Our hook should stand straight out. So now let's talk about weight. You guys know I'm always using my Angler Tungsten. Now this is one of the fast snatch sinkers that they have. This is a 1/2 ounce. Now I'm going to use a little heavier weight because everything's pretty steep and deep here. But the biggest thing about this is you want to get away with using the lightest weight that you can possibly use. So for the depth level you're fishing, and for me, 90% of the time, even though, I've got the quick clips on there, I just go ahead and tie a couple of overhand loop knots because I'm real bad about casting the weights off. So I just come through the nose, come out, push it up on there, I roll it back, come straight through, and then to make it weedless, I just skin hook it, and there you have it. All right, geeks, let's talk about my rod, reel, and line setup on this. Now, I love a higher end rod. You don't have to have one, but I love a higher end rod when it comes to bottom bouncing baits and finesse baits in particular. And we know that's about as finesse as it gets, right? So a drop shot, I love my TFO Resolve 7.3 medium light, and you can get an 1/8 ounce to a 5/8 ounce out of this very sensitive, very nice rod. Now you can see I'm using 6-pound test canine fluorocarbon as my leader, and I've got their braid, and I'm actually using 20-pound canine braid. This is the yellow. I love the pink, and but this stuff lasts so long, I just don't see the need in wasting line. So I'm staying with the yellow on this one right now. But this is a speed spin. This is a like $59, $49 reel. They're a pretty decent reel for the money. And they've got really good drag, so it works well. The rod and the feel of the rod is the most important thing. And on these baits, good drag also matters. But for this reel, it's got some pretty good drag. All right, let's go throw this thing. So there's a couple of different places I love to fish during the winter time, and deep brush piles are gonna be numero uno. The bass love to get on that wood. They love it because it holds heat a little bit better, and it gives them an easy ambush point so they don't have to exert a lot of energy for the meal that they're eating. Now, when I'm fishing these deep brush piles in the wintertime, I'm not throwing right in the middle of them. I'm working those outside edges because we're using light line. So we're working around the edges of them, hopefully ticking them a little bit here and there, and especially working that deep edge of them. That is one of the keys to getting bites on brush piles in the winter. So when we come up on a brush pile, we want to stay back off of it. And I always like to cast if it's a blowdown. Now, if it's just a brush pile, like, you know, that somebody set out and it's going everywhere, you can kind of attack it from any angle. But if you're attacking a laydown or a blowdown, a tree, you got to remember those branches are going to grow toward you. So most of the time the tree is going to fall into the water. So it's easier to come with the growth of that tree. You're not going to get hung nearly as much as if you're wedging it right into the V where the branches split off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fish the outside edges and fish where I think the deep edge of that brush is. We're going to make a cast to it. We're just barely going to shake the rod tip, the least amount of movement. And a lot of times I just dead stick it during the winter time. The colder the water gets, especially once we get in those lower 40s, I'm dead sticking it. I'm just letting the amount of the boat movement and just the natural sort of movement, you know, from your arms and holding the rod do the work for me for these baits. Now, once you get a fish, you just want to lean into them. You don't want to set the hook hard. Number one, most of the time, they're not going to fight really hard during the absolute coldest, the cold weather. So you just lean into them, reel, and bring the fish to you. Now, you do want to, and I always preach this, I always try to take my rod tip down to the water, especially when I'm using fine wire hooks, because if they jump, it's a small barb, and they've got a good chance of coming off. So I always like to keep that rod tip down to the water surface or even in the water surface, especially when I'm on a boat. Now, you bank anglers don't want to do that. Let me give you a tip about your leader. Now, you can see during the wintertime, I go to about a 6 to 8 inch leader a lot of times, unless I think the bass are suspended up off the bottom a little more, and I could go extremely high, up to a 5-foot leader. But the leader itself during the wintertime is real important. The shorter leader, the more subtle action you're going to get. The higher the leader, the more movement you're going to get. You bank guys need to remember, if we're coming up a bank like this, your bait is down low. So it's always going to be a little closer to the bottom. So a little longer leader for you might help you keep it up, and a little longer rod for you might help it keep up a little more suspended. So the steeper the bank, the more this bait is going to be closer to the bottom as you bring it up. Now, one of my other favorite places are creek channel swings, and a lot of times where I'm at, creek channel swings are bluffs. So let's go fish a bluff. Now, when I'm fishing a bluff wall or a steep channel swing, I know a lot of times I want to get my boat very tight to the bank, and it really depends on if it's just a sheer straight up and down wall or how far it drops off and the levels that it drops off. A lot of times, if I don't know how deep the fish are, I'm going to start by being slightly out and casting maybe 45 or less, you know, toward the bank. And I'm going to slowly just drag that drop shot down the bluff wall. But once I start getting a few bites and I understand what depth range those bass are in, I'm going to line my boat up, keep my bait in that depth range, you know, give or take 5 feet, and keep it in front of their face for as long as I possibly can to increase my chances to catch more fish. Geeks, a drop shot is a go-to bait during the winter time. I'm telling you, you can fish it from as shallow to as deep as you can get. And the key to it is setting it out there. If you've got ponds with muck bottoms, this is the bait for you. If you've got, you know, grass, dying grass, this is the bait for you. Rock, structure, I don't care, because you can leave it in place for so long and dead stick it. Those bass have to come eat it. They just can't stand it. Now, who's going to win this massive box of JBro's baits? All right, here's all you have to do to be able to enter to win. Just hashtag, all one word, drop shot. Hashtag drop shot, and you'll be entered to win down in the comment section below. Now, that's pretty much it, geeks. As I always say, man, I appreciate you guys. 100% Watch Squad, you guys are incredible. Join that 100% Watch Squad. All you have to do is watch 100% of the videos when they come out, 100% of the time. You wouldn't believe how much that helps the channel. I appreciate everybody that does it. I know it takes time, and I appreciate you spending your time here with me. As always, questions and comments in the comment section below. Hashtag drop shot to win this massive box of JBro's soft plastics. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you guys ring that bell so you get the notifications when they come out. 100% Watch Squad, love you. I love all my geeks. And as always, you geeks rock.